I have one of the most interesting questions for you today, and that is how do you show up for yourself? And I want you to write this question down, think about this question, reflect on this question. This question is the backbone of advocating for self. Is you showing up for yourself? And how do you do that in your professional life? How do you do that in your student life? How do you do that in your work life? How do you do that in your spiritual life? How do you do that in your family life? Right? And what's your perception of showing up for yourself? That is going to be key as we talk about, and I encourage you to advocate for yourself. It has to be part of this conversation. Showing up for yourself. Everything that you do begins with assessment. Only you know what you need. Now, what I will say is that after years of experience, being a very experienced faculty member for a long time, that we begin to track patterns. We understand student student needs as we teach a course. So I can anticipate and be proactive. However, that's only half of it because I don't know what you know. Only you know what you know and what you need. I'm anticipating what I think you may need, and based on the evidence, I'm going to give you and deliver the message this way. But only you know what you need. And now just keep in mind that as your educator is in the front of the class, they're trying to appeal not only to you, but 60, 80, 100 plus individuals. So obviously, if we're appealing to the masses and trying to do things that will stimulate, everyone's learning needs, there may be a situation where you walk out of the classroom like, I don't think I got what I needed. And that's why this bullet is so important. You need to know what you need because when things like that happen to you, one of the first things that students typically like to do is go to other students. And what I want to reframe your thought pattern is I'm the educator, I'm at the front of the room, I'm doing this lecture, I prepared, only I know what I'm trying to portray. And so at that moment, if you have gaps, then it behooves you to ask questions during the lecture, after, because sometimes you have to get through the content. So, are you asking questions after the lecture? Are you going to make an appointment? So, if I'm shy and I don't like to be in front, or I may feel like my question is stupid, so I hear that a lot from students, right? I feel like my question is going to be stupid. Classmates are going to laugh at you. Well, no educator is doing their job to the fullest if they're not managing that classroom where that behavior is tolerated. Okay, because we're all trying to learn here, right? And those are the kind of environments I like. No one, no one's here to up. We're all trying to get to the finish line together. Identify the problem, identify the gaps, and then we can start identifying goals that hopefully can help us through to getting to the solution. In order to identify the problem, where does the problem begin? Now this is very important because once you start becoming into a part of a class, the class takes on its own dynamic. And so you have to be very careful that you're not crowdsourcing, that whatever the crowd is humming about, that becomes your hum, because that could be very different from what your problem really is. And so I really want you to pay attention and identify what are some external factors, meaning program related, versus internal factors, meaning what's going on in between my ears, right? Do I have a confidence issue? Have I been studying? Is it a process issue? Because it's very easy to pinpoint the problem to external, but if we have not fully assessed internal, our needs, if we haven't shown up for ourselves, done our due diligence and accountability, then that does feel like an attack from an external factor. So I would just want you to understand external versus internal. So let's identify the gaps. So these are some examples of some external, right? If you have surpassed that last step and you truly believe, now that you've done the self-evaluation, you've taken accountability, you have assessed what you need, there has been a lack of something. You don't quite know how to articulate it, but there is a lack. And you need to try to fill that void. Okay. So, where are the gaps? Because when you get ready to speak to your faculty, you need to do so, or leadership, whomever, objectively. And it's very difficult to leave emotion aside and straight for the facts. But that's what you have to be able to do. And so one of the things that's going to help you is go into your policies. So what does your student handbook say? How they should be handled? What does your syllabus say about this issue? What is going on in the classroom? What's going on during lecture? What's going on during clinical? What's going on at the state of the college? All of these things are important. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go through each one of these things at one time, but certainly in your program, perhaps you've had issues with classroom management, lecture issues, clinical issues, general issues. So if you have issues with classroom, clinical, lecture, then you need to go back to the policies. All right, so that's why that's the top bullet, because the policy dictates and gives us guidance and expectations of what should be done clinically, in the classroom, and during lecture. So that's how you build your objective data. Okay, and this is going to be important for what we're talking about next, because now we're getting ready to go to communicate, and this is very nerve-wracking. Okay, very nerve-wracking when you get ready to communicate to someone that you foresee as having responsibility over your grades. And the reason why I say it like that is because that's what makes students really nervous about speaking out. But it is unethical for any educator to impact your grade because you have expressed concern. Now, how you express that concern needs to be done with professionalism, okay? Because that's important. You need to learn how to do it. You need to learn how to speak professionally. If you do not know how to do that, if you've ever been told you're rough around the edges, whatever, that is something that I can definitely help you with. So you're going to set a meeting. You need to communicate with respect, and you need to use I statements. I feel as though XYZ is going on. When I referenced my policy regarding this matter on page XY, this issue keeps coming up. And I want to understand what can be done to help solve this issue so that I could be set up for success. Now, you see what I did there? I used I statements. I didn't bring in anyone else into the conversation. All right, because it's so easy to bring in what other classmates said. No, you're talking about you right now. You. So I statements. Other classmates didn't come in, you did. So talk about your situation from first person point of view. This also sets you up for how you're going to be charting, because all your charting is from a first person perspective, right? And you need to repeat this method as needed. Now, if you need to be coached on that, how to figure out how to do that. But if you come to your educator, leader, in this manner, you're going to get some open dialogue and maybe be prepared to have some solutions. Because a lot of times people come to educators and leaders with the problems, but they also don't have any idea about the solutions. But it's okay if you don't have any idea. But don't think that your voice isn't valuable. You may have some really great ideas about how to fix this. So make sure you're not afraid to make notes about what you think a solution could be as well. Listen, you have to show up for yourself. No one's going to advocate for you harder than you can advocate for yourself. No one. No one, you cannot assume that anyone knows what you need if you have not articulated it to them. You cannot assume that someone is mean, a bully, don't like you, if you've never even broached a conversation professionally using I statements to evaluate what's the true state of our affairs. Because what will happen is, based on, maybe other students' encounters, other exaggerated data, you start getting an idea of these individuals that's already skewed from the start. And then when we're not confident, right? It's so easy for others to come off as very intimidating. When it's I think when we say others are intimidating, it is something that we're lacking confidence wise in ourselves. And I say that because every time that I felt that someone was intimidating, it was because there was something going on with me. I was unsure of myself. It all reflected back. And so I want to make sure that we have that perspective. All right. You know your mission now. Show up for yourself. Do it. Start doing it today. Start practicing it at home so that you can be prepared to deliver it when you need to and in any situation. Listen, I appreciate you. You are more than enough. You are more than capable to survive nursing school. All right, this is Dr. Sturm. You know where to hit me up at.